What's the right direction for John Connor's story in Terminator 7? The franchise can't just kill him off again or ignore him completely. Since Terminator 2, the movies have struggled with how to handle his character. We believe that offing John Connor in Terminator Dark Fate was a misstep. Director James Cameron has announced that he's working on the script for Terminator 7, so here's what we know about this eagerly anticipated next chapter in the series. The Terminator franchise kicked off in 1984 with James Cameron's breakout hit The Terminator, which featured a deadly cyborg sent from the future to eliminate Sarah Connor before she could give birth to humanity's savior. The film's success led to a blockbuster sequel in the 90s, and the franchise seemed unstoppable. However, despite the strong start, the series stumbled with each new sequel, spin-off, or reboot. The 2019 film Terminator Dark Fate was a major disappointment, and it seemed like that might be the end for the franchise. Even Arnold Schwarzenegger announced he was done with the series. But now, James Cameron is back with some hopeful news about Terminator 7. Still, there's a twist. Linda Hamilton, who has played Sarah Connor since the original film, has announced she's done with the franchise. She stated, "I'm done. I have nothing more to say. The story's been told." This leaves a big question mark for Terminator 7, especially since Schwarzenegger is also stepping away. Without these iconic stars, the franchise faces a tough challenge. It's uncertain who Cameron will cast for the next installment, but it's unlikely to involve Sarah Connor. Even though James Cameron seems excited about reviving the Terminator franchise, Terminator 7 is still far from a sure thing. Cameron's recent comments make it clear that the film is still in the script phase, and there's no guarantee it will move forward. The franchise has a complicated history with rights issues, and while Cameron created the series, he doesn't hold sole control, which could complicate things. As of 2023, Terminator 7 is still in the early stages of development, with no studio officially backing it yet. Cameron's involvement is promising, but the script is more of a speculative project at this point. Edward Furlong, who famously played John Connor in Terminator 2 Judgment Day, has shared his thoughts on how Terminator Dark Fate handled the character. Furlong was puzzled by the decision to kill off his version of John Connor early in the film. In a discussion on the Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum podcast, he remarked, "I didn't understand, how the hell are they going to do that? I don't know, it just felt a little bit like the whatever happened to Baby Jane situation." This feedback highlights the challenge of bringing back the franchise and reviving the magic of T2, which remains the most iconic installment. The franchise has struggled to capture the same essence in its subsequent films, making the task of rebooting it even more daunting. That said, killing off John Connor in Terminator Dark Fate was a huge mistake. The idea was to create a dramatic moment that would underscore Sarah Connor's journey and establish a new direction for the film. Instead, it backfired spectacularly. John Connor's death in the film's opening sequence was meant to shock and separate this new installment from previous Terminator movies, but it ended up feeling hollow and uninspired, leaving fans with a strange and soulless scene that lacked emotional weight. The intention was to use John's death as a way to erase the impact of Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines, Terminator Salvation, Terminator Genesis, and even the Sarah Connor Chronicles. By killing John shortly after the events of T2, the film aimed to reset the franchise and set higher stakes for this new story. However, this approach failed to deliver. The recreation of T2 John Connor with VFX, while technically impressive, felt off-putting and didn't capture the essence of the character. John Connor is a crucial figure in the Terminator saga, alongside the T-800 and Sarah Connor. Using him merely as a plot device undermines his significance and the impact of his previous appearances. The death of such an important character should have carried more weight and been woven into the narrative more thoughtfully. Instead, it diminished the achievements of T2 and left a dent in the franchise's canon, making the events of that iconic movie feel less meaningful. The question of what to do with John Connor in the Terminator franchise has been a major issue ever since Terminator 2. It's clear that since the 1991 classic, no Terminator movie has managed to capture the same level of acclaim. Each attempt to revive the franchise has fallen short, and James Cameron's departure from directing after T2 has certainly contributed to the struggles. John Connor's role has been a particularly glaring example of the franchise's difficulties. For over 30 years, the films have struggled with how to use him, both as a character and as a plot device. Terminator 3: Rise of the Machines tried to introduce an adult John Connor living in a seemingly peaceful world, but this intriguing premise was ultimately squandered in a less than stellar movie. Terminator Salvation aimed to reimagine John as the hero of the rebellion. But despite Christian Bale's involvement, the film had its own set of issues and didn't quite deliver. Terminator Genisys tried to shake things up by turning John Connor into a villain controlled by Skynet, but this twist, meant to surprise audiences, ended up being more confusing and unappealing. The fact that this twist was spoiled in the trailers only made matters worse. The treatment of John Connor in Dark Fate was just another misstep in a long line of mistakes regarding Sarah Connor's son. Given John Connor's pivotal role in the Terminator saga, it's clear that Terminator 7 can't afford to just ignore him or kill him off again. John Connor is too integral to the franchise's lore to be sidelined. Assuming the new film isn't a complete reboot with a fresh cast, it will need to address his character in a meaningful way, especially after the backlash against his death in Terminator Dark Fate. John Connor has been a part of almost every Terminator movie, from small cameos to major roles. Regardless of the timeline or setting of a new film, any story involving the war between humans and machines will need to acknowledge him. However, one of the ongoing challenges for the franchise is its struggle to move beyond iconic characters like Arnold Schwarzenegger's T-800. The key challenge for Terminator 7 will be to strike a balance between honoring the original elements that fans love and introducing something fresh and new to the series. For Terminator 7, it might be best to introduce a brand new version of John Connor, separate from past iterations. Whether the film is set in the present with a young John or in the future, showcasing a fresh take on the Resistance leader, this approach would steer clear of the issues that plagued Dark Fate's attempt to alter the franchise's legacy. By presenting an entirely new version of the character, the film can avoid the baggage of previous films and explore new narrative possibilities. Terminator 7 needs to decide if John Connor will be the central character or just a part of a broader story with new protagonists. Even if the film reboots the franchise, it can still reinvent John Connor while maintaining the core elements that fans love. Movies like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and Prey have proven that it's possible to refresh a franchise with a new perspective while honoring its original essence. This approach could help Terminator 7 breathe new life into the series. And that wraps up today's video. If you want to stay updated on all the latest movie news, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. By doing so, you'll stay in the loop with all our future updates. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one. Remember, we're always open to your suggestions for future videos, so feel free to leave them in the comments below.